Welcome, everyone, to the official Warrior podcast from Max. I'm Lisa Ling, a journalist and Warrior superfan.
And I'm Hoon Lee. You may know me as the actor who plays the objectively best character in the show, Chow, the friend to everyone, wily fixer, and I'm also a writer on the series.
That's right. As your host, we will be breaking down every episode of Warrior Season 3, and we'll learn more about how this incredible new season came together through interviews with the creators, cast, and crew. We'll also be discussing the very real historical events and people that inspired the character and story of Warrior, including Bruce Lee, whose writings inspired the entire series.
Today, we're diving into Episode 9, All of Death Is a Going Home, written by the amazing Brad Caleb Kane. And then Lisa is going to share a conversation she had with Andrew Koji, a.k.a. Assam, a.k.a. our incredible lead, and the phenomenal Mark Dacascas, who plays Konpak in the series. And yes, we know he died in Episode 8, but we're bringing him back to life to talk to us because he is Mark Dacascas.
It was so much fun.
I'm really sorry to have missed it, but when I checked my schedule, the interviews were going to get in the way of my sitting around time. What I want to know is, did they fight? Did they kiss? Did they hold each other tenderly? I know you were disappointed we didn't have a way to have them fight each other in the series. People love for this thing to be like Street Fighter. They're like, can Leong fight my Ling? Can my Ling fight Kong Pak? Yeah.
If Chow could fight anyone, who would Chow fight?
Chow's battling addiction, I think, with like alcohol. This season, I did not have a scene where I didn't have a whiskey glass in my hand.
Well, in answer to your question, no, Andrew and Mark did not fight because Andrew was in London and Mark was in the studio with me, so they couldn't.
That's a shame.
Well, as you know, we've had Andrew on the show before in Episode 3, which was very memorable. And so it was so great this time for Episode 9. I had a few minutes to chat with them together, Andrew and Mark, and then Mark and I talked some more. So we have a couple of great conversations today. And what a thoughtful guy Mark is. He really shared his heart with us, but he's also someone you would never want to piss off because he is a master martial artist and like a 4th-degree black belt or something.
Yeah, when you're an actor and you get the stunt guys standing around with their mouths open watching you perform, that's usually a pretty good indication. I would come into the stunt tent and some of the stunt guys would run up to me and be like, have you seen Mark kick yet? It was like They were looking at a shining unicorn in the middle of a field. It was pretty great. And I have to say, he did not disappoint.
Wow. Well, listeners, by now you know the drill, and hopefully you have already watched Episode 9. But if you haven't, go take care of business, then come back and dig in with us.
Yes, go watch. It's for your own good. Listen to Lisa Ling. So, here's your Episode 9 recap. In the wake of Bill's fight with Atwood, Mayor Buckley pays Bill a visit at home.
Mr. O'Hara, I've just come from the hospital where Chief Atwood is laid up. He's claiming you attacked him.
Is that what he said?
He didn't say anything. His jaw is wired shut, but I have a written statement to that effect.
That's not what happened.
Your former colleagues over there claim Chief Atwood was inebriated on duty and fell down a flight of stairs. Would you dispute their assertion?
Well, that does sound like something he would do.
Because I'm in need of a new police chief. But you seem a little worse for wear yourself. So the question is, are you up for it?
Lai, disguised as a maidservant, moved through Strickland's house on a mission to find him. He recognizes Lai, and an epic sword fight ensues, ending with Strickland killing Lai. Assam shows Yanmi the counterfeit bills that the Hopway have produced without her, jeopardizing her value to the Tong, her income, and her safety.
Youngjoon's guys are getting good.
It's passable, it's not perfect.
And it's close.
You really think Youngjoon's gonna come after me?
I don't want to find out.
At Long Zi headquarters, Leong finds hatchet men standing between himself and Mai Ling. Leong tries to approach, and the guards, with a mixture of fear and respect, once again move aside, leaving Mai Ling vulnerable. She's scared. He could kill her, but instead he leaves her there, tearful and lonely. Strickland shows Leary around the railroad construction site he's building. Leary informs Strickland that he should be hiring Irishmen since Buckley will most likely outlaw Chinese labor. Strickland refuses. Your men do half the work for twice the pay, he says. Leary realizes he's been played. Father Jun is being treated by a Chinese herbalist and healer for his wounds. The healer tells Young Jun that his father is only getting worse. Father Jun asks Young Jun to do the honorable and merciful thing and kill him.
I built something. I was the most powerful man in Chinatown. That's how I want to be remembered, not like this. You got what you wanted. Give me my dignity.
After a long and emotional argument, Young Jun reluctantly obliges and takes Father Jun's life. Lee has traced the counterfeit operation to Yanmi. Lee and Mosley arrest her. At the ceremony for Father Jun, the Hopways strike and leave their hatchets embedded in the top of his coffin in a show of respect. Preparing Lai for burial, Atoy tells Nellie, justice comes in many ways, and Nellie, surprisingly, agrees. Assam tells Lee and Mosley he'll reveal where the counterfeiting plates are if they release Yanmi. He visits Yanmi in jail, and he tells her he'll meet her at the train station, and together they'll leave. Leary sabotages Strickland's railroad. Strickland responds by sending men to attack Leary, and he fights them all off. Leary style.
Well, Hoon, as always, a lot happens in this episode, but there's something I want to ask you about. Wang Chao, your character, arguably the best character in the series, as you recounted just now, quotes Bruce Lee when he officiates at Father Jun's funeral ceremony.
Yes, he says great wisdom comes from great struggle.
So I'm curious, throughout the season, we've talked about what the cast members and writers refer to as Bruce Lee-isms, and they're peppered throughout the show. Do you have any favorites, whether they're quotes or, again, just like other isms?
Honestly, some of my favorite tributes to Bruce, they're actually represented in the physicalization of the fighting, partially because that's such a dominant part of Bruce Lee's legacy, but also because it kind of gives you an appreciation for how iconic these particular postures are, or these bits of choreography are, and that they've really made an impression not just in the minds of the viewership, but in the entirety of cinema. So when Andrew, for example, will strike a pose and warding off some people in the factory, I think that was in season 1, you know, I kind of got chills. You know, I feel like we're speaking to the history of Bruce Lee.
I agree with you, Hoon. I mean, and you can't help but recognize those little moments. I mean, like the little winks or the gestures. It must be so much fun to incorporate those kinds of things into this show.
It is. I think there's always a danger where you don't want it to become something that becomes distracting. You know, you can take people out of the show because they're suddenly hunting for Easter eggs, and you can quickly devolve into some sort of a self-conscious parody. But I think we've really done a good job in not doing that. Some of the things are quite subtle.
Oh, yeah, but they're not distracting at all. I mean, I feel like every time I see one, I kind of like want to do a little cheer, like, wow.
Oh, that's great. That's exactly the reaction we're hoping for. And I think used well, it does that exact thing. It just kind of gooses the energy a little bit. It kind of, it becomes a touchstone for, you know, part of the reason why we're doing this at all.
Well, and Andrew Koji just expresses those Bruce Lee-isms so amazingly. And it's such a pleasure to welcome him back to the podcast. Andrew grew up in Epsom, Surrey, England. His father is Japanese and his mother's English. As an actor, he studied at the Actors Temple in London. As a martial artist, he's trained in Kyokushin Karate, Taekwondo, Shaolin Kung Fu, and Wing Chun Kung Fu. He was a stuntman for Fast and Furious 6, and he played Storm Shadow in Snake Eyes and Yuichi, the Father Kimura, in Bullet Train.
And of course, we all know him and love him as Assam in Warrior. And on set, we just call him Koji.
Joining Koji today as a guest is Mark Dacascas, who plays Kong Pak in Warrior. Mark Dacascas is an American actor, martial artist, and television personality. Mark's turn as the chairman on the Food Network's hit show Iron Chef America launched him into pop icon status with over 200 episodes and counting on the Food Network. He also took his turn on the dance floor, transforming his martial arts moves into dancing magic on ABC's hit show Dancing with the Stars. He also starred in the CBS series Hawaii Five-0, and is a mix of Japanese, Filipino, Spanish, Irish, and Chinese heritages. He holds a 4th-degree black belt in his father's art, Woon Hap Kuen Do, and has extensively studied Muay Thai, Capoeira with Amin Santo, and Wushu. Andrew, Mark, it is such an honor to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa.
One of the things that I love about this show is it really does dispel so many of the stereotypes that I think people have of Asian men. In this show, the men they're fierce, they're sexy, they are unafraid and unapologetic. Do you think that the show Warrior has really changed people's perception of Asian men and this idea of Asian masculinity? Andrew, I'll start with you.
The masculine one.
I really don't know. I think it's more that there's a solid team, a group of people, Jonathan Tropper and Carrie Anthelis at the time, and Shannon, Jocelyn, etc., the initial producing creatives who are just, I wouldn't even say open-minded, they just don't have those biases, and they're just trying to do it with integrity and with depth and intelligence, because Asian men are, they are masculine. You go to Korea, Japan, etc. There are a lot of masculine guys there, and I think that's the reality is, and it's the Western media which has put out a lot of the emasculated.
May I interject
please,
real quick?
please.
Andrew, I heard through the grapevine that you, Joe Taslim, and Jason Tobin had it in your contracts to show your upper bodies at least twice each episode. I see how hard you guys work, and if I look like that, I'd want the same thing. It's okay, you can be honest here. It's Lisa.
Yeah, I just wanted to get my kit off all the time, basically, I do, early days Matthew McConaughey, any chance I just take my top off, Just like, yeah.
When in doubt, abs.
Yeah.
But really, I mean, you mentioned Western media. You have rarely seen Asian men portrayed in the way that Warrior portrays them. Because for so long, Asian men have almost been caricatures throughout history as far as media portrayals have been concerned. And Warrior really depicts Asian men very, very differently. It's almost the antithesis of that. I mean, Mark, was that something that you recognized as a viewer of the show before you joined season 3?
Absolutely, 100%. So my wife and I had watched episodes 1 and 2 of season 1 before I was offered the audition.
You auditioned?
I did.
What the hell?
Happily and honored to, and I'm so grateful to Jonathan and team that you guys invited me on board. But I don't think I've seen so many Asian men and then portrayed in the whole spectrum of men as in Warrior. It's really great because we have all sorts, all types, as we humans are all mixed up, right? But I'd never seen that in shows, in movies before, as in Warrior. So I don't know if, as you're saying, I don't know if it was Jonathan Tropper's intent or any of the producers' intent to, show Asians as we actually are, humans,
And outside of the martial arts, these characters are so layered. I mean, I mentioned they are incredibly sexy and they're sexual, but they are thoughtful, they're conflicted. As you said, Mark, it's really the full spectrum of emotions that are exhibited in the show. And that is, I think, up until recently, has been unique as far as portrayals of Asian men have been in media.
I agree.
Well, I was bummed that there was no fight scene between Kong Pak and Assam.
Assam is to Assam.
Yeah. Jonathan Tropper likes doing that. He likes putting these legendary actors that I would love to work with in the same show, and I never get to work with them. So that's it. I'm like, God
I was
damn.
waiting. I was waiting.
Well, Koji-san, I love your work, man.
Oh, thank you, man.
I love your work.
Oh, thank you so much, Mark. Mark, you've been a legend.
Thank you, Andrew.
Okay, so this is where Andrew had to take off.
Goodbye, Andrew, you beautiful son of a bitch.
That he is. But before we get to the rest of my conversation with Mark, I would just like to take a second here, Hoon, because I believe that Mark Dacascas holds a special place in both of our hearts, right?
That's true. I was a broke actor living in a small studio apartment and hoarding VHS tapes for entertainment because I couldn't afford to be on the streets of New York. And one of the movies that I would watch kind of in multiple passes was this Mark Dacascas movie called Only the Strong. It not only introduced me to him, it introduced me to capoeira, which was just such an unusual and beautiful martial art that I had never seen before. And I was like, I really want to do that. And then I tried it once and I said, I can't do that. And so I stopped. But I really loved it, and I loved seeing him. So it was a real thrill to get to meet him in person and to learn he was such a lovely, humble, grounded artist. It's one of those things that you never know until you actually meet the person, but he fit in with our cast and crew just amazingly well from day one.
Well, it's been so great to hear from the people that we've spoken with, just the awe that they harbored when talking about Mark Dacascas. And I have my own story. When my sister was incarcerated in North Korea back in 2009, there was a vigil for her, and Mark Dacascas came and spoke, and it was so touching and meant so much to my family.
Huh. I don't appreciate that you've trumped my story with your story. That's not cool.
Sorry, Hoon.
I thought we were friends.
Let's roll the tape. Mark Dacascas, I have to say I've spoken to a number of the cast members and executives on the show, and universally, they were so in awe and so excited that you agreed to be part of this cast and part of season 3. How does it make you feel to hear that?
Well, Lisa Ling, thank you for having me. And
legend status to all of these people, truly.
Grateful, humbled, and thankful. But I must say that I loved their work. Cast and crew, producers, writers, so much that when the audition came in, and I auditioned for the show, I was so excited and honored to be even considered for an audition. And then when they invited me to the show, of course, that was a huge joy in my heart.
See, they were all saying, we can't believe that Mark Dacascas
I can't believe they hired
took
me.
this job.
Oh, well, thank you. It's mutual. I was overjoyed.
Well, as someone who has spent a virtual lifetime in martial arts, how is this show, how is Warrior different from any other martial arts show you've ever seen?
Well, it has the spirit and gravitas of our Bruce Lee. There's not a day that passes that I don't think of Bruce Lee in one way or the other, whether I'm training or studying, just living, breathing, because I love his philosophy as much, maybe more so than even his fighting.
Well, as an Asian American martial artist, but also as an actor, how did Bruce Lee open the door for you?
Oh, well, so the first movie, as far as I can recall, that I saw in the theaters with Asian people, with Asian leading men and leading women, was Five Fingers of Death. And I thought it was awesome, but it was really scary because, they poke eyes out.
Yeah.
And that was really, it's like, wow. That freaked me out. But I thought, wow, this is cool, martial arts and Asian people up there on screen. But the first individual that made a huge impact on me, Asian, was Bruce Lee. He was so charismatic. He didn't even have to do his action. He could just stand there and look. And I was just awe-inspired. I mean, get emotional. He touched my heart like I know he did with millions of others across the world, And I'm mixed. I was born in Honolulu, and my grandfather on my mother's side, Raymond Lloyd McVeigh, an Irishman from Kentucky, and my grandmother, Kyoko Tanabe. Originally, her family's from Hiroshima. Her mom was born in Japan, but she was born in Hawaii. And so, in Hawaii, we call it hapa, right?
Yeah.
But the great thing I always felt with Bruce Lee is that it wasn't about color. It wasn't about religion. It wasn't even about martial arts. His mind, body, and spirit was connected. And to me, that's a real martial artist. That's a real martial artist. I mean, what kind of martial artist, and I ask this of myself as well as everyone else, what kind of martial artist are you? If you go to class and you change into your gi or workout, gear, and then you drop your ego, and then you enter the dojo or the training area, the kun, right? And you're respectful and honorable, humility, and then you leave the class and then you start cussing when somebody cuts you off or this or that. Now, we're humans, so everybody does that. But isn't the idea of martial arts to help you deal with the outside world? And I always felt like that's what Bruce was trying to teach us, the emotional content, right? He talks about emotional content. And, he says that one line, and forgive me because I have to paraphrase, but basically he has the finger pointing to the moon and you don't want to lose the heavenly glory by focusing on the finger, right? I think that with Bruce's philosophy, and this is what I get out of it, it's making not one or the other dominant, Fighting is physical dialogue. And to me, it wasn't like you see Bruce fight and then he talks about something and it's two different people. It was fluid. He was fluid.
It was like water.
He was like water. Yes, thank you. He was like water. And he was so very present. He was breathing, all these things that martial arts, if you have a good teacher, is supposed to teach you. He was so much more than just fighting.
Well, speaking of fighting, the show Warrior really explores so many different fighting styles.
Yes.
As an expert in multiple fighting styles yourself, tell me about your assessment of how they put it together in the context of this very real period in American history.
Yes. Oh, I think, so at the helm of our action is the wonderful, talented Brett Chan. And, he's the head of the choreography and the action team and all that. And he's extremely well-versed and incredibly talented. And so I feel like he's given everyone a base, a very unique, as we all are unique, way of fighting. And then again, in Bruce Lee's sensibility, we have our particular style or our way, but we also use whatever is practical and has effect,
Well, in one of the most devastating moments of the season, your character, Kung Pak, is killed at the hands of one of his closest friend, Leong. Tell us about that moment and how that scene was created.
Very, very emotional because you are fighting, killing, dying for love,
And it's your closest,
Yes.
your closest confidant. I mean, we haven't
Yes.
seen Leong confide in anyone the way he confides in Kung Pak, your character.
Yes. And the thing is, from each respective character, you're doing the right thing. You're doing what your heart tells you, your heart to your mind to your body. And, it's, again, it's all for love. Leong loves, Kung Pak loves. The thing is, Kung Pak loves Leong. as a younger brother or surrogate son, and he sees such promise in this younger man to be the leader, and he's old enough to have seen things. And I don't believe Kong Pak thinks that My Ling is bad. She's just not, in his opinion, as good of a leader as Leong could be, because it seems like her idea is that the individual is more important than the group. And Kong Pak doesn't see life like that. And he believes that Leong could be a better leader in that way. So I feel like if Kong Pak's death actually helps Leong see that, I think he happily sacrificed himself for the group. But it was devastating because he would have preferred to have been alive to see the transition. But, you take one for the team, right?
Well, he also quite possibly could inspire all hell to break loose as a result.
Yes, and there's that. And that's highly likely.
Yeah, I mean,
which makes for an exciting show.
But that moment when Leong is cradling Kong Pak's head, I mean, I almost feel emotional right now just thinking back on that at that moment, because that bond was so important to him. And you also don't see those moments between men very often.
Yes. Thank you. And, Joe Taslim, who plays Leong, incredible martial artist and so present and talented as an actor. And he breathes, right? He breathes. And I say that because, in life, we want to hold our emotions back. We stop breathing, right? To stop yourself from crying, you don't exhale. And Joe, as a martial artist and as an actor, just as a human being, he's confident and he can just let it go. He flows, he breathes. And yes, for that moment, during the shoot, we became real friends, and, age-wise, experience-wise, philosophically, it felt so right, and I think, like you said, you could feel it, because any breathing person that's felt love, you understand it. I think as we get older, we've lived heartbreak. You don't come out of life without heartbreak, right? If you've lived long enough, you don't come out of it. And most of us, as we get older, we deal with heartbreak a lot in one way or the other. Some bigger ones and some smaller ones.
Well, it was really moving to see how your character Kong Pak really allowed Leong to feel in that way, right? And ultimately, I think it helped push him toward his destiny of assuming that leadership role that he, I think, had been denying for so long.
Yes. Oh, I love what you just said. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you look at a lot of people and they have what it takes, but for whatever reason, they're not ready or willing to take that role, right? Because it is a lot of responsibility. So maybe the fact is, who knows, but maybe it took somebody that Leong loved with all his heart to die for him to move on. Maybe that's what it took. I would argue that is what it took.
We talked earlier about the relevance of the show, but Warrior is set in the 1800s during a period of tremendous hostility to the Chinese who were living and working in San Francisco. Why do you think this show is really resonating so much today?
I think the show resonates, sadly, because the political issues that we're dealing with in the show in the 1800s, I feel like we're still dealing with right now. We have gotten better technology, and a lot of things have improved, but the way we treat our people, it doesn't seem like that's gotten much better. And that's why it is so necessary to have Warrior and shows like Warrior, to have art that points out the things that we need to work on.
I feel like we kind of need this show right now.
I agree 100%. I mean, in my lifetime, I've never experienced, and thus far, I haven't felt it personally, but I've never seen so much Asian hate on social media or on mass media, for that matter, ever before. And I talked to some of my, I don't even know what's politically correct anymore, my African-American friends, my Black friends, my friends that are my color or darker. They just say I'm paraphrasing, but basically, welcome to the club, and that's sad.
It's not surprising to me that Bruce Lee was thinking about these issues so long ago. I mean, he really was so ahead of his time and really trying to preach this message of unity and fought against racism and welcomed everyone. Therefore, it doesn't surprise me that something that was created by him really has such resonance today, decades, 50 years after his passing.
Lisa, yes. We see him as this magnificent physical specimen. But I think, like Muhammad Ali, even more importantly, he was a teacher, an educator, a philosopher, and he did it, in many different ways, but certainly by embodying it and teaching his martial arts to anybody who is willing and open-hearted and hardworking and kind to do it. He taught everyone, and that alone is, I suppose, revolutionary. 100%. And that's why he's one of the many reasons why he's still so relevant now. I mean, I follow Shannon's Bruce Lee account on Instagram and on Twitter because every day, he's still teaching us. He's still teaching us. One of my favorite sayings, hack away at the unessential. Hack away at the unessential. And he talks about self-actualization. Who are you really? Who are you really? Not what our culture tells us we are, but who are we? And he lived it. That's why I think it resonates. That's why his writing resonates. That's why the show resonates. Because it's so easy to say, tell yourself, I am this, I am that, because everybody else does it, or we see it, or we hear it, And I get from him to, in cooking terms, the reduction, to reduce it, to distill, to simplify.
My last question to you is, we've been talking about these beautiful quotes from Bruce Lee, but his most famous one is "Be like water." In what way are you like water?
Being born in Hawaii, proudly, or Hawaii, and then having lived a little bit in Colorado, and then my formative years in Hamburg, Germany, moving to Taiwan when I was 17, and then making the journey back, and finally ending up in LA. And then as an actor working in all these different places in the world, I have, to survive, needed to adapt to the climates and languages and cultures and foods and characters I've played. And then just, with all the human relationships and how wonderful and ridiculous we are, that I've had to take the shape My water has had to take the shape of a bottle, a cup, to be splattered on the floor, to be heated up and become a vapor, just to cry and rain again and go into the soil and hopefully sprout some, give water to some plant that needs it. That's my water.
Beautiful, Mark. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
So beautiful.
Okay, that's it for us. Until next time, we'd like to thank the amazing Andrew Koji and the magical Mark Dacascas for joining us today. Two beautiful men that smell fantastic.
Join us next time where we discuss episode 10, our last.
No!
We're going to speak to showrunners Evan Endicott and Josh Stoddard about some of the overarching themes of the show. And honestly, just take a little time to reflect on what an amazing season of Warrior it has been.
One more episode to go. Come back to us one more time after you've watched episode 10.
Yes, stream new episodes of Warrior Thursdays only on Max, and listen to the podcast on Max and wherever you listen to podcasts.
See you soon. The Official Warrior Podcast is a Max podcast produced by the Mashup Americans. It is executive produced by Amy S. Choi and Rebecca Lehrer. Our producers are Sarah Pellegrini and Thomas Liu. Our development producer is Nicole Kelly. Our production manager is Shelby Sandlin. The show is mixed by Pedro Rafael Rosado.